Good morning from snowy Search Mountain, Northern Ontario. Today I'm going to be making an artisan cheese bread, and because I'm going to be making it a little different today, Dave asked me to make a video. So usually what I do is I make my artisan bread in a stainless steel Dutch oven, but I saw in a video somewhere that they did it in a roasting pan. So I'm going to try that today. The recipe is super easy. It's 3 cups of flour, and I'm going to move this down here so you can kind of watch what I'm doing. Place myself here. So I already have 2 cups of flour in there. So I'm just going to aerate, which basically just means fluff it up, get some air in there, and just spoon it into the measuring cup. I level it off just with the side of my spoon loosely and throw that in. So that's the last cup. It's 3 cups of flour. And then I'm just going to move over here and add the yeast and salt. Get a couple of things moved around here. So I always use quick rise yeast for this bread. I don't use a yeast where you have to bloom it with sugar. And this works just fine. You measure the yeast, throw it right in the flour. So it's 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, quick rise yeast. So just add a little bit extra there on top of that. And then it's 1 teaspoon of salt. Give that a loose mix. And if I look hurried, I just want to make sure that this video isn't too long. And then this is 1 1/2 cups of warm water. So, to go back to the flour, if you're measuring your flour, it's between 360 grams to 390 grams of flour. So, and then the water is between 115 degrees and 130 degrees Fahrenheit for the water. So I've just mixed this up a little bit with a spatula, and then I throw all of that water in, and I did take the temperature of that water just before I started the video. Again, I didn't want to take the time for you guys to sit and wait for that thermometer to move up. So then a stainless steel bowl I find works really, really well, but I've used a plastic bowl, like, whatever's there and not in use or in the fridge somewhere. So you may have to add flour depending on how absorbent or how much water your flour absorbs. So I don't know if you can see, it's kind of shaggy right now. Not really sticking to the spatula, kind of goopy in the bottom. So there's really a big wet spot in the bottom. So I'm just going to take a little bit more flour and add that in. And I do that often. I do it often. They say to err on the side of wet or moist. I don't seem to have success with that. I get it to the point where it wants to stick together and not be sticking to the spatula. Kind of push it in and down on itself as if I'm kneading it. But then when I kind of see, there's still that really wet spot. I'll try and put the drier spot down on it, but I'm still going to put more. So I'm probably adding maybe a tablespoon at a time, if that. Kind of sprinkling it and moving it into the flour. Yeah, I think we've got it. And it's kind of, you're going to know as soon as you get it where you're like, okay, that's a nice little shaggy lump of dough, that's where you stop. And it's a no-knead recipe. So we're just going to cover it up with some saran wrap, which I didn't prepare. So generally I will stick this in my oven with my oven light on, covered with a cloth. Sometimes I put it in front of the fireplace. But today that fireplace is just blazing hot. So I'm going to stick it in the oven, turn the oven light on, and come and check it in an hour. So it should have risen. And I didn't check the camera the whole time I was cooking to see if you could see me. But come back in an hour. And if it hasn't risen to double its original size, and leave it in there. It could be in there for 2 hours, but I'm sure you'll have success at least after an hour. So we'll do another part with me coming to take it out, forming it, and getting it ready to put in the oven. Okay, bye. Hi everybody, we're back, and we're going to take a peek at the bread that's been in the oven. And like I said, the oven isn't on. So yeah, look at nice and fluffy, a little bit jiggly. So we're going to take that out. I'm going to put that there. Shut this out then. So as I said before, I was going to make a cheese bread, but this is how much cheese I have left. Oops. So that's going to be a topping. And then I think I might throw some everything bagel inside this dough as I'm folding it and put a little bit of extra flavor in there. So we'll just put that there. So you see it's very doughy. Lots of nice air holes in it. So what I'm going to do, here I am again with that. What I'm going to do is I have a silicone rounded spatula. I just put a little bit of flour on it. And then I scrape my dough down off of it. Okay, there. So you can see it's still, after I added that flour from earlier, you can still see there's still quite a bit of wetness there on it. And I don't put my hands on it. I use this spatula, so you can see it's stuck a little bit there. Let me back it up a little bit. And I just, usually I put the cheese in right now, and then I just fold in the bread upon itself. And you can see when I touch it with my fingers, it sticks, but not so much with my spatula. And that's exactly great. And if it sticks too much to your spatula, I just stick it in my flour a little bit. So what I'm going to do, it's not sticking at the bottom or anything. It doesn't have any really big goop spots. So I'm going to shake some of this everything bagel here. I'll fold it in. So yeah, it's not even sticking to my fingers. It's really quite nice. So I'll fold that in. Oops. A goopy spot there. Give another little shake. And I think that's enough because there's salt in there too. So you just want to hit those little pockets every once in a while. Get back to the spatula. It's still sticking to my fingers. But that's all you need to do, and it's done. So if it was the cheese, I don't know, you want to maybe fold that in pretty evenly. But now it's back to a small blob. Pretty much all the air is out of it. And you can see I'm just kind of smashing it with my spatula. So I flip it over, get a little bit of flour on the bottom. And you can see it's nice, got a nice consistency. So then what I do is I lay it out. And now because this, usually I make a round ball, but because this is a roast pan, just going to give it a little roll so I can get a little bit more of an oval oblong shape. Dusty all the time on all of my saran wraps. Cover that loosely. I'll put a towel on it. I'll as well use the same one. And then there. We're going to wait a good half hour, I would say, until it's doubled. Once it's doubled, I put the oven at 450 and put the roast pan in at the same time as it's warming through. Once that's heated through, at least 15 minutes, have a look at your bread. It's probably ready. Then we'll be back to pop it in. Hi, I forgot to put the bit of cheese that I had on top of the bread before I ended that video, or before I put the saran wrap on and ended that video. So just showing you that I've loosely put that on there. Okay, we're back. I confess I forgot about the time and got going on something else. But what I'll show you is what I do is it's very hot. This has been in the oven at 450 for 15 minutes, and you can see it smoking, and that's probably a little bit of the oils from my other cheese bread. Look at how huge this is now that I've forgotten about it, but that's okay. Oops. So I pick it up corner to corner. I've taken the lid off. You very carefully place that in that pan. This thing's going to be a monster maybe now because I've forgotten it. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. So I've placed it in the pan. It won't stick to the parchment paper. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the pan lid on, roasting pan lid on, and press it down a little bit. Put that in there and set your timer for 30 minutes. And again, it's at 450. And we'll leave that there for 30 minutes. And then once that expires, we'll take the lid off and leave it for another 5 or 6 minutes just to brown the top and get that cheese all nice. Okay, it's been in for 30 minutes. Super, super hot, as I mentioned. It's 450, of course. So then you take off the cover. And if you've noticed, I only have one rack. And look at, see, remember it was all sticking to everything? No problem. I'm gonna leave it in for about another 6 minutes. Okay, it's time to take this bread out of the oven. I left it uncovered for about 6 minutes, 7 minutes. That's the time I got here. So you can see it's nice and, bring it up close, nice and crispy. Okay. So what I do, if you can see me, I just lift it up and I bring it over to my, I have a raised rack, sticky rack, and you see everything pops right off of it, and that's it. You've got your bread. I'll shut my oven off before I forget. So you can see it's nice and crispy. Not too close. So we'll let that cool off at least a good 10 minutes or so. I'd say a little more because you don't want to wreck the inside when you're cutting through it, but it's a nice crust. So I'd say that this roast pan method is a success, even though I let it proof probably an extra half an hour to 45 minutes, and then you could see that it was pretty large, sticking everywhere. Cooked up beautifully. So nice crust, and we'll enjoy that after.